This should be played at high volume.
Victor's blocking his teammate. White flag this time. One to go. He's got to block two teammates to win it, though. Gordon and Johnson. He flies way up high and takes the white flag. Johnson stays bound in the 48 car. He's got the push from Tony Stewart, the 20 to keep Vickers to the high side. Vickers couldn't block them both. Side by side, 2 laps to go. Somebody's got to give, getting into turn 1. Hey, buddy, go get him.
Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Pettitt, your host of The Pit Stop, and we welcome you to this 2023 racing season. And this program will dedicate itself over the course of the 2023 season, covering grassroots racing of all forms all across the great state of North Carolina. That is our mission this year, and thank you whether you're listening to us on local radio stations across our state. If you found us on Facebook or in the podcast form, we appreciate you finding our show. Again, my name's Randy Pettitt. I'm most known for being one of the voices of North Wilkesboro Speedway back when it was running cup races, and of course the legendary Coca-Cola 300 triple headers, Coke 400s. We had a lot of fun up there at Wilkesboro, and of course I was at the Madhouse over in Winston-Salem for 15 seasons. Well, when you talk about grassroots racing, the top of the mountain would be the man that is on our show tonight. He became the youngest winner of that national championship for NASCAR's Division I. And folks, this is for tracks in 25 different states, 3 Canadian provinces. So he beat the best of the best of the best all across America and Canada. He's our guest tonight on this edition of The Pit Stop. We're talking about Layne Riggs, and Layne is from Bahama, North Carolina. Layne, welcome to the program, and congratulations. You're now the youngest Division I national champion of NASCAR. Wow, how does it feel?
It feels great. It's finally sunk in after all this time and been treated like royalty by NASCAR and other racers the past couple months, trying to sink it all in and soak it all in. It's been a great experience, something that all those hard late nights, blood, sweat, and tears, all those 3 things did happen at some point or the other, and they all paid off to have a great reward and something you can never take from me.
Layne, for the fans listening out there all across North Carolina, you live in Bahama, which is one of the many great small communities that make up the Tar Heel State, and it's located just outside of Durham. So, if you will, Orange County Speedway and South Boston Speedway, probably your 2 home tracks. Wake County Speedway, just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from you as well. You raced in 2022 at several tracks to win this championship. You were up in Virginia a lot, Dominion Raceway, Motor Mile up there near Christiansburg, Virginia, and of course South Boston Speedway, where you came home with the 2022 track championship. That in itself a pretty amazing feat. You also logged some laps that counted toward this title over at Wake County Speedway and of course the legendary Hickory Motor Speedway. And folks, he had quite a season. He had 43 starts that counted toward the title, 16 trips to victory lane, 30 top 5 finishes, 38 top 10 finishes. Layne, that's a heck of a career for a lot of folks, much less to do it all in one season. And what made it even more amazing is you guys did not start out the 2022 season talking about winning the NASCAR National Championship. How did this all come about?
Yeah, so funny and ironically enough, this was the year that we were going to take off, go to the lake and the beach and hang out and have a good, nice, stress-free season. We're all going to have fun. And we started and we said, hey, we ran a couple car races. We're like, hey, I've never really ran much at South Boston local. It's right here up the road. Let's go, hit a couple races and see how we do. And we're like, we know Peyton's really tough and, Jacob Boris is really tough. They're really tough competitors when you race the track every single weekend. And that's your local track versus, the past 4 or 5 years I've been touring around, hit a different track with the same people. So I was like, we're going to go in these guys' backyard and see how we stack up. And came out first race swinging, won both the features, came back next race, won next 2. And we're like, wow, we got to come back next week. And you got to come back next week. And we just kept having some success. People like Josh Berry and Lee Pulliam and other national champions were coming to me saying, hey, you were really ahead in the points right now. You have such an early start and so much success early. You'd be crazy not to go for it. So we're like, we knew how tall of a task it was going to be. We knew how grueling it was going to be, especially me being in college at the same time. But, thanks to Dad and everybody on the team and all the volunteer help that stepped up to make it happen, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. But it was a pretty fairy tale season for sure. We had a lot of lot of success. We had a lot of disappointing times, a lot of stressful moments there in the later stages of the championship. But, to end up being crowned 2022 national champion and the youngest one to do it is, something I'll remember forever.
Yeah, no matter what you do going forward in your career, you're always going to be known as a national champion. And you beat a lot of tough competitors. And one of them is a man that you beat by only 4 points for the national championship. And fans, that simply means on a double point night at a NASCAR track, that's basically one spot on the racetrack. So that's about as close as you can get. And Peyton Sellers had the title as the youngest national champion previously. He was 21 years old when he won that title back in 2005. And by the way, he won 14 out of 16 at South Boston that year, so he knows how to get around that place pretty well. Peyton, of course, a two-time NASCAR national champion. And, you beat some other great names. So folks near my hometown of Winston-Salem might recognize the name of Tim Brown over at the Madhouse. Tim finished 9th in the NASCAR Division I National Championship, 110 points behind. Of course, Tim won the title there at Bowman Gray. So that just tells you how hard it is to get up there in that top 5. By the way, the Virginia state title, Peyton Sellers won that by just a few points over you. So you got the Southeast Region Championship and the National Championship and the South Boston Track Championship. And shout out to Clay Jones. He had a heck of a season as well, running primarily down there at Wake County Speedway, won the North Carolina state title by just 4 points over Tim Brown of Madhouse fame. So, Layne, tough competition everywhere you turn. Obviously, South Boston, you figured that place out. What was it like racing up there at Dominion, Motor Mile as well? A lot of tough competitors up there in Virginia.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of them as well. There's always a steady big car count every weekend we went. And, it was tough just trying to go in there, especially running at Dominion on the McCreary tires. I've had no experience on McCreary's in the past till this season. And, Peyton and the other guys, they've been racing on them since Dominion started, which was, 4 or 5 years now, 6 years almost. It's funny, I actually won my first Cars Tour race at Dominion back in 2016.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was pretty long time ago, and that was when the track was brand new and first came out. I always liked Dominion, so to go back there and run local, it was very trying, very tough, and we really had to do our homework. Those guys had a lot more experience on tires. Doug Barnes was always really fast when we went. And those guys are up there, no slouches. So to go up there and just get even a couple wins, it wasn't our most successful track on the schedule, but just to be able to match their wins or do just as good as them or be right there at them to even out, the success I had down here is what it took. And if we didn't do the homework and we didn't get good on the McCreary's, we wouldn't have won the championship.
Layne, you have also won some other signature late model races during your career. I was there in 2019 when you won the Rodney Cook Classic. That is a very prestigious late model race that we remember a great racer, Rodney Cook at Ace Speedway. And there's many others around. Valley Star 300 at Martinsville. Is that on the bucket list for you?
Everybody wants to win Martinsville. Any big race that all the eyes are on, I want to go win it. And this past year, I hate that we had to miss it. It's a race that everybody was expecting me to go to. Peyton ended up winning the race, but we were just so tired. My team, the cars are tired. They're all blowing oil out the seals. Everything's just so rough at the end of the season. We put all of our eggs in the basket to win the national championship. If we did go and run Martinsville, we don't think that we could have got the job done. We wouldn't have been prepared. Those other guys had a Martinsville car sitting over there just waiting to go to that race later in the year. We didn't have the opportunity to have that. So, I said, let's just, step away. We'll go back and run a couple big ones at the end of the year. And we thankfully went back to the Rodney Cook Classic and picked up my final win of the season. So, but yeah, everybody wants to win Martinsville.
Folks, you're listening to The Pit Stop, whether you're listening on live local radio or found us in a podcast form on Facebook or the magic of the internet. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Randy Pettitt. We've got NASCAR's Division I National Champion for 2022, Layne Riggs, in our studio tonight. And Layne, we're going to wrap up segment 1 here. I wanted to talk about the fact that even though you're a young man, you're 20 years old, you've been racing a while. You actually started in the Cars Tour when you were just 14 years old. So times have changed. You got to get out there and get going early if you want to be successful running in the late model world.
Yeah, for sure. I'm only 20 years old, but I feel like the old man out there already. The new kids coming in, they have and I look at them like, wow, they're so young. And I think, wait, hold on, that was me at one point. It's so weird to look back and think that, when I was 14, I didn't even think about it. I was like, hey, we're just out here racing cars with everybody else. And, I think looking back, the success that I did have at such a young age was pretty remarkable and something that I was able to build off of. So really cool. And, got to run the Cars Tour, really seasoned me to be the racer I am today, matured me. I was able to understand racecraft, how to race people, the best in the business. I raced against every weekend, Josh Berry, Lee Pulliam, and everybody else that was successful, Bob McCarty, everybody. And, looking back, those guys really helped me learn. And I had this past season, I had to put all those skills I learned and put them to the test to win the big trophy.
Folks, I'm Randy Pettitt, and you're listening to The Pit Stop, and we'll be back in just a few moments as we continue our conversation with 2022 NASCAR National Division I champion, Layne Riggs.
Hey, buddy, go get him. Come on, buddy. One to go.
And welcome back to this edition of The Pit Stop. I'm your host, Randy Pettitt. Some have called me racing's greatest showman, and I've been called a little bit of everything. That's the voice that you've heard for 15 seasons over at the Madhouse in Winston-Salem. Called many a race up at North Wilkesboro Speedway and 111 other tracks around the country. And we're racing in January down at Caraway Speedway. So, hey, if there's a race around, there's a pretty good chance you're going to hear me. We have got a very special guest today on the Pit Stop. We're talking about grassroots racing all across North Carolina. And if you're going to talk grassroots racing, then, of course, the NASCAR national champion is a member of the Tar Heel State. And he's actually a second-generation driver. His name is Layne Riggs. And I've also got a surprise. I've got proud papa, Scott Riggs, former member of the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity, and Trucks, is joining us today, too. And, Scott, how about that young man? Congratulations on you guys bagging the championship for 2022.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a trying season in 2022 for sure. I can't say enough about Layne. I know he's my son, so it's easy for me to brag about him. And he's always been such a good driver that he's the one that's really pushed the team to the limit to be able to make sure that we can provide good race cars for him every week, because no matter whatever race car we give him, he's going to get the absolute most out of it every single time.
Layne, did the old man get on the headset and give you an earful a few times during the course of a long season?
Well, we've had enough times together. I had to give it back to him sometimes. That's just what father-son relationships are all about. But, yeah, we had our ups and downs. We had our stressful moments. We had our, crying on the radio and happy tear moments when we win races. So it's I wish that we recorded those radio conversations sometimes. Those are always interesting. Be nice.
Yeah, we might can make a few bucks off of those, right?
You'd probably make a lot of money off of it. And it'd be
blooper reel.
The short track radioactives. I'm surprised the Cars Tour hasn't done radioactive. They're always into the new and upcoming things. So I'm surprised they wouldn't start that this season.
It would be definitely a show within a show.
That's right. Scott Riggs, that's a name that race fans across the Carolinas will remember. And if they don't know that name, they need to Google it. Scott, you started racing motorcycles when you were 14 years old. In today's standards, that's pretty late, man. You're late in the game if you do that today. Scott was an AMA state champion here in North Carolina. Scott, I believe you're around 15, 16 years old when you won those two titles. And then you tried out four wheels. And for all of our grassroots racers across North Carolina, Scott got his start in the mini stock division, right, Scott?
Yes, I did. It was a 4-cylinder Pinto engine and car that had been turned upside down that we bought for $1,300. And my dad brought it home and said, "We're not racing motorcycles anymore. We're racing cars." So that sort of started everything. It's funny. We were talking about it the other day that I have a picture somewhere that I need to dig back up. It's actually a picture of me in that first 4-cylinder car. And I was going around the racetrack, coming off turn 2 at Orange County Speedway, and the picture captured me looking completely 90 degrees through the window net, looking into the pits to see what my dad's signal was going to be of how much longer I needed to keep running.
I hear you, man. You've come a long way, baby. 28 years old when you made your Truck Series debut in 1999. Again, by today's standards, that's pretty late. You won 5 truck races and 60 starts in the trucks. Xfinity, 4 wins, 115 starts. And I know the thing that probably sticks in your craw, 208 starts in the big leagues, 3 poles, 10 cup seasons. But, man, Victory Lane just eluded you. I remember that you came close a few times. What is the big one in the big leagues that got away for you?
Well, that's definitely Charlotte for the 600. You remember when you should have won races. You don't remember the races you did win. The 600 is something that still sticks out in my mind, along with everyone else, that talks about my racing. They always talk about that they were there on the 600 and, man, you should have won. And we had made all the moves. We sat on the pole. We did all the right moves during the race, put ourselves in position to capture the lead late in the race. And then we ran out of fuel coming down pit road for our last pit stop. And we still probably had a good shot at winning the race still. But then I remember our gas the entire team was pushing the truck, the cup car, trying to get it back started. And I remember that the jack man went out of the pit stall, dragging the jack with one hand. And
that's right.
Had to come back in for another black flag stop. So that was the one that got away. This is the one everyone talks about. Who knows how the career could have changed a little bit with that win. But I was very appreciative of the time I did have. All the racing that I did participate in was competitive. Those are the ones that were fun to me. And I thought I was out of racing once I quit racing, and I came back home and I saw how much drive that my son had in pushing towards wanting to drive cars. And once I put Layne in a car, from that day on, I've been full blown 100% back in racing, all working on his car ever since.
Yeah, you thought you were done, right?
I did.
What was the trigger where you said, "Okay, I'm going to give this kid my best effort to see if he can do it"?
Well, we have a little red clay go-kart track here at the house, and we would always enjoy a Wednesday or Thursday evening getting a chance for everyone to come over, and we always raced against each other. And Layne was just out there with us. If we were on the track, he was going to be one of the guys out there with us. And I had so many guys that were racing go-karts at the time, and they would come over to play with us on our track. And I remember a good friend of mine telling my wife, if you don't give that kid a chance in a car, you should be ashamed of yourself. and it got under her skin so bad, she came to me and said, we've got to give him a shot. And I said, well, do you understand what you're asking? You're talking about putting him in a race car. So sure enough, at 10 years old, we had a 4-cylinder built, and we put him in it. And I just told him, I said, this is just a bigger track, but it's just a big go-kart. And he took right off from that. I think he qualified on the pole and finished second his very first race. And, man, it's been full throttle, wide open, trying to keep the cars up to Layne's standard ever since.
Layne, you were basically a baby being carried around the racetracks, watching the old man do his thing, and probably just in your blood, right? Couldn't help it.
It is. It's funny talking about that, being around the racetracks. When Dad was racing, it was just, as a kid, I feel like everybody's dad was a race car driver, and it was nothing really important or interesting to me at the time. And I regret those days that I didn't really care about it, because now when he got out of it is when I really started getting interested in it. So it was good timing, because he's been almost every single one of my races and been crew chief the whole time. And, we've built such a good relationship off of it that I'll never forget. But it kind of sucks that when he was in the Cup Series and I was going to all the races, that I didn't really appreciate in the moment, which, any kid that doesn't know any better would do the same thing.
Now, Scott, does everybody think you ought to have a little darker suntan since you live in the Bahamas? I know you probably get that a lot. Tell us a little about how you landed in Bahama, little town, about 3,300 people in the shadows of Durham. How long have you guys been in the Bahama area?
Well, I've been here my entire life, which is now 52 years. So this is a place that my grandfather and on both sides, my grandparents on both sides of my mom and my dad, both have lived here in this area. And the land that I actually live on is handed down family land. It was a few acres that I was the first grandchild to come into the scene, and was able to get a couple acres to build a house on, and I've bought some more of the family land around me as the times goes on, and I think this is where they're going to probably have a little headstone somewhere around here where I'll be propped up years to come.
I spent some time up there with Chip Lofton and the folks at Strutmasters in Roxborough, not too far away from you. That is a great area of the world. Guys, short track racing across North Carolina, there's some places that are still rolling along pretty well, and there's some places where you're wondering just how much longer the tracks are going to make it. Scott, I'll start with you. One of your home tracks here, Orange County Speedway, not running a whole lot. You go up the road a little bit there to South Boston Speedway. It's thriving. Hickory Motor Speedway hanging in there. Wake County Speedway getting resurgence. Talk a little bit about the state of short track racing across North Carolina since you've been around the block just a little.
Well, I know that when I was racing full-time in a late model stock series back in my heyday, which was 25 plus years ago, I mean, there was at least 20 to 25 cars in the late model stock field every single week. The stands were full. We would go between Orange County Speedway and South Boston Speedway and go back and forth weekend to weekend. And it was it was really the heyday when everything was very lively, had plenty of people in the stands. I'm not going to say it wasn't expensive to race, but it wasn't what it is today. And it's definitely changed a lot. I see that, like say, there's not that many car count as it used to be. Definitely not filling the stands the way that it used to. I mean, a lot of it has to do with there's so many races now that are actually televised that people just don't go to the track to see the race. So I think it's been hard to see so many good racetracks, especially a facility like Orange County Speedway. It produces such good side-by-side racing.
Agreed.
Just not having the kind of capability to have every single week to be able to put on a good show. And I think that, it all boils down to, unfortunately, it just boils down to if you can put the big purse up, you'll draw the big crowds. And as long as you do a good job with your facility maintenance and you make sure that you have good people behind the scenes as far as your inspectors and the people that run the racetracks. My dream is for someone like Turner. I mean, Robert Turner, if he was someone that could run Orange County Speedway, he's someone that knows how to run a racetrack. He appreciates all the cars and the competitors. He tries to help you put on that show, and he knows that show is built around the competitors that they are, and that's why he has such good turnout every time that he has the Riding Cook Classic. He puts the money up, the purse up, that draws the big crowd of competition, and when the big competition is there, that's when you have the big turnout in the stands to watch that race.
Scott, great comments. Appreciate you hopping on. We'll see you at the track soon. Layne Riggs, ladies and gentlemen, and his dad, Scott. Scott, an all-timer in the Cup Trucks and Xfinity Series. Layne, the 2022 NASCAR Division I National Champion. Layne, last word. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us on.
Thanks, man.
Folks, I'm Randy Pettitt, and we appreciate you listening to this edition of The Pit Stop, and we'll see you at the track soon. Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Pettitt, host of Rattling The Rollcage. And whether you're listening to us on live local radio or found us on a podcast or on Facebook or on the internet, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. Rattling The Rollcage has been around as a YouTube show for a while, and we're now getting it on live local radio to talk about all things motorsports at the major league level. And tonight we are talking about some NHRA Major League Drag Racing. And with me, fresh off of turning 28 years old a couple months ago, He lives up in New York on Long Island, about 45 minutes from New York City, and you might recognize his name. He was the 2020 Rookie of the Year in the NHRA, and he's been to 11 final round appearances in NHRA Camping World Top Fuel Drag Racing. He is our guest tonight, the one, the only, Justin Ashley. Justin, it's good to talk to you again, man. And, man, we're going to be cranking up them top fuelers before we know it. The Gator Nationals in Gainesville, Florida, coming up starting on March the 9th, just around the corner.
Yeah, I can't wait. I appreciate the opportunity to hop on and talk with you. Really excited about that, to chat it up. And, we're right around the corner, man. The season's starting. We're actually going to be testing here in a few weeks, about a month or so before the actual season starts. So we're ready to go, ready to start burning some nitro.
Justin, the Carolinas have a little bit of a special place in your heart, I'm sure. That's where you made your debut in NHRA competition in the fall race at Charlotte in 2019. And you made it all the way to the semifinals of that race. And you're like, man, this top fuel stuff is easy, right?
Yeah, little did I know at that time, right? That was an amazing event, an amazing day. Really what it was a culmination of years and years of surrounding yourself with the right people, having a great team, and putting yourself in a position to be able to do that. To see that really all come to fruition, and then to actually have really a lot of success on race day and throughout the entire weekend was an amazing feeling. Like you said, we went to the semifinals, got down to the final 4 cars, came up a little short, but all in all, it was a great weekend. Gave us a lot of momentum for the remainder of the year, and I definitely have a big place in my heart for Charlotte.
A lot going on in your world. To kind of recap for the fans, 2022 was a great season for you guys. I believe you finished up 4th in the points, and you actually led the Camping World Drag Racing Series standings heading into the last few events. And then things went a little bit south that last event. Talk about that Pomona race a little bit. The season finale, you have a first-round matchup with your quasi-Toyota teammate, Antron Brown, and Antron didn't cut you any slack, man.
He didn't, and I love racing against him. He's like family to me. He's a teammate, but at the same time, I hate racing against him because he's just that hard to beat. So you said it. We led the points for a while. To be honest with you, Randy, we were in a really good position to go out there and win the 2022 World Championship, which was our goal. And we were in it up until the last day of the year. Unfortunately, things didn't break our way. We had some mechanical issues that we've been able to go through now, that we got the car back to the shop and figured out what the problem is so we don't experience that moving forward. But we had an early first round exit. I was happy to see my teammate advance. He made it all the way to the final round. But ultimately, we came up short of our goal, and we led the points for a while. We came to the final day of the regular season in 2nd. We ended up finishing in 4th, but our entire Phillips Connect Toyota racing team did such a great job all year long just to be in that position. So it'd be really silly to really look at that one race in a microscope. We got to look at it as a whole. And as a whole, I think we did a great job.
Justin, a lot of great motorsports fans here in the Carolinas. Now, of course, this is the middle of NASCAR country where I'm from, and you and I've met several times, and I'm a NASCAR guy, but I have continued to really enjoy being a part of the NHRA pit area and part of the NHRA family, and there are a lot of great drag racing fans here in the Carolinas. Unfortunately, the Virginia event was taken off the Camping World Drag Racing Series schedule. That's the bad news. The good news is here in the Southeast, you can go check out the Gator Nationals, the 54th running of one of those granddaddies of the sport. That'll take place in March. That's in Gainesville, Florida. Back to Charlotte in the spring, April 28th through the 30th. And they'll be back at Bristol, where you had some success this past year in June. Talk about racing in the Carolinas. A lot of great fans here of NHRA racing.
Yeah, you said it. There are a lot of really great fans. First of all, ZMAX Dragway, which is right around Charlotte Motor Speedway, that is far and away my favorite place to race on the tour for a number of different reasons. The facility is absolutely gorgeous. It really is stunning. The track service is excellent, but the fans, the fans tend to come out in droves and pack that place out, and they're really knowledgeable and have a great understanding of drag racing. So I enjoy going to the Carolinas. I enjoy talking with the fans who are fortunate enough to be able to come out to that race and spend some time with us there. So I certainly love that facility. And obviously Gainesville and Bristol and the surrounding areas have a lot of prestige. Both of those events are extraordinarily meaningful to teams, extraordinarily meaningful to drivers. And I mean, these places, both Bristol, in addition to Charlotte and Gainesville, obviously, I mean, they get packed out with a ton of really excited, awesome, inspired fans. And as racers, really, truthfully, it motivates us to go out there and do the very best that we can and perform for our team and for the fans.
You're listening to Rattling the Rollcage. I'm your host, Randy Pettitt. It's my pleasure to have top fuel driver Justin Ashley, the 2020 NHRA Rookie of the Year. And this fella is no slouch. He's been to 11 final rounds. And Justin, I can remember when you won your very first event, and now you've got 5 under your belt. You went from being a total unknown to being one of the guys to beat week in and week out. Talk about that progression a little bit. And it's happened fast for you and your team.
It has. It's happened fast, but it's the culmination of a lot of really hard work, time, commitment, energy, and dedication on and off the racetrack. Really, the truth is you got to surround yourself with the right people. And we're fortunate to have a really good team on and off the racetrack with Phillips Connect, with Toyota Racing, with Chip Lofton, who's been with us, supporting us from the beginning. And he's been a tremendous help, a tremendous asset in helping to propel our program forward to the position we're in now. So you said it, 11 final rounds. We've been fortunate enough to collect 5 Wallies along the way, which is really special because just winning one of these races, just qualifying, just winning one round of eliminations is difficult in and of itself. And, you know, we had to work our way up. We really did. We started by maybe blowing a lot of stuff up, maybe not winning rounds, maybe costing ourselves and beating ourselves. But each and every year we continue to get better and better. We're fortunate to have Mike Green and Tommy DeLago and Dustin Davis running the operation. And with that leadership and the personnel that we have, we found ourselves in a really good position moving forward.
A lot of race fans here in the Carolinas know about Toyota's involvement in NASCAR. Toyota's also got a pretty big involvement in NHRA drag racing too, Justin, and you are one of their recent acquisitions. Talk about being part of Team Toyota for the 2022 season and going forward.
Yeah, I love being a part of Team Toyota because it's really a Toyota family is what it is. And this relationship came about through our teammate Antron Brown, and he was kind enough to make the introduction. It's been a great relationship being involved with Toyota, being involved with Toyota Gazoo Racing North America. What they do is they do an excellent job of putting their drivers in a position to help build their brand and build their reputation the right way and help to make the teams marketable. But in addition to that, there's a direct correlation to our success on the track and our relationship with Toyota. They provide us with a ton of data and information and resources from their on-track engineering team that help us to find success. They give it right to Mike Green, Mike to Tommy DeLago. And truth be told, the information is so good, it's way above my head. But for them, it's exactly what they need. I go into the lounge, I look at the data, the information that Toyota sends to them, and I'm just amazed at how detailed and how significant it is. And it directly contributes to our performance on the racetrack.
Well, and you actually work on the car a little bit. You're the fuel guy on race day. I've seen you many, many times. Fans will be up trying to get an autograph with you, and you're there mixing the fuel. Talk about fuel duties.
Yeah, I do have fuel duties. We have a rule. I have to stay at least 10 feet away from the car so I don't get myself into trouble doing anything mechanical. I think I'm just going to stick to fuel duties and stick to driving and stick to the business side and the marketing and sponsorship and partner side of racing. Everyone has their role. That's part of my role, part of my responsibility. And in drag racing, you're allowed to run on 2 substances, 90% nitromethane and 10% alcohol. And depending on the day, you're going to want to get to a specific ratio based on the conditions and a number of different variables. So that all goes into mixing the fuel. And it really is a little bit of a scientific process, but it's a process that I enjoy and gives me the ability to be a little bit closer to the fans.
And I'll tell you from firsthand close-up experience, when they fire them babies up, it just brings tears to your eyes, tears of joy and tears of breathing those nitro fumes. Folks are listening to Rattling the Rollcage. I'm your host, Randy Pettitt, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. We're back on Rattling the Rollcage. I'm Randy Pettitt, your host. We have got one of the top guns, one of the rising stars of the NHRA's Camping World Major League Drag Racing Series. Top fuel driver Justin Ashley has been kind enough to drop by today. And Justin, for folks listening out there that maybe they are not big NHRA folks, because we're here in the middle of NASCAR country, tell the folks, what is it like to get strapped in that 25 foot long race car? They strap you in there, they fire that thing up, and you know, a NASCAR Cup car has somewhere around, I think, 600 horsepower. You guys are putting out 11,000 horsepower from one engine. What does that feel like when they fire that thing up and you take a hit on that beast?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you said it is a beast. The only real way to describe it without actually doing it is the word violent, because anything can really happen at any time behind the wheel when you're sitting in that race car. You're talking about cars that go 0 to over 330 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. So it's not only the speed, but it's the actual acceleration, how quickly you get from point A to point B, and how straight you can do that amongst many other things. And the car doesn't always want to go straight either. It might try and take you left. It might try and take you right. It might shake the tires. It might smoke the tires. So it's certainly an adventure. You know, when you're in that seat, it really feels like a rocket ship. That's the only thing I can compare it to, is sitting back. You get plastered into the seat. It's about 6 G's when you take off and another 6 G's when you pull the parachute. So I think the best way to describe it is probably violent, something close to a rocket ship launch, or maybe something close to a pilot, on a jet or something like that. So, it really is an amazing, exhilarating feeling.
I think part of the secret to your quick success is the fact that you grew up around this. You've been around these loud beasts basically all of your life. For the folks not familiar with Justin, his father, Mike Ashley, was actually a very successful pro mod and funny car driver for a good time, including a historic 2007 win at Indianapolis, which is sort of like the Daytona 500 for the NHRA guys and gals. Justin, this stuff runs in the family. Your dad is a successful racer and team owner, so I guess it's just in the blood, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I feel bad for my mom having to put up with that when my dad raced, and now having to do the same when I race. But yeah, it really is just in the blood. It's funny because people come to the sport for the first time to watch drag racing, and they're like, how do you do this? You're nuts. How do you go so fast? Well, when it's in the blood, when it's what you grow up around, you really don't even think twice about it. So I certainly think, having had the experience that I did growing up around the racetrack, having a better understanding of the sport, has certainly helped to put me in this position today. But that, in conjunction with the kind of team that we have on and off the racetrack, are big contributing factors. But I had a great experience growing up around the racetrack, and there's no doubt, I'm still learning a lot from my father. Just looking back at the races he used to race to now, and him making suggestions along the way. So all of it certainly helps and contributes to winning.
You mentioned a familiar name earlier to race fans here in the Carolinas. Strutmasters.com was on the quarter panel. He was always the quarter panel guy of late models and NASCAR Truck Series, all the way up to the Cup level. Strutmasters.com was founded and owned by Chip Lofton, my good friend, and you and I have a connection with Chip. I'm actually just finishing up a book about Chip. He has an incredible life story, and you're in that book because Chip was Chip saw you when you were just getting going and put a little wind in your sails. And like I said, you guys made your debut at Charlotte. You had a little bit of success right away, and that was enough to attract some further attention. And now you guys just last year have got a major sponsor in the bag for a good while. So it's kind of cool to watch Chip do what he does, find somebody and give them a boost and get them going. That's exactly what he did in your case, right, Justin?
It's absolutely what he did. I want to make this point clear. We would not be in this position, and I would not be in this position without Chip Lofton. Before I ever drove a Top Fuel car, I went to Chip Lofton and I said, listen, this is what we're looking at. This is my dream. I want to live my dream. And he was the first person to be able to take a chance on me as an individual. And to this day, he stayed with us, supporting us on and off the racetrack ever since. And he's somebody that grew from being a partner to a friend to a part of the family now. So I have a tremendous amount of gratitude a tremendous amount of appreciation for Chip Lofton. And each and every day, each and every year, we're sure to stay in contact day in and day out, just going back and forth from family to friends to professional life. And it really is an amazing story that he took a chance on us from the beginning and that we've been together ever since. And it's something that's truly special and something that I'm very, very grateful for.
Fans, you're listening to Rattling the Rollcage, talking all things motorsports, and today we've got top fuel driver Justin Ashley from the NHRA's Camping World Drag Racing Series, who nearly won the title last year. Justin, another question I wanted to ask. I'm a NASCAR guy. I grew up in the NASCAR family and have been to a lot of Cup races and a lot of NASCAR racing across the country. And one thing I've really noticed, a good thing that the Camping World Drag Racing Series drivers do, almost all of them, they interact more with the fans, to me, than what you see typically in a Cup garage or Xfinity or Truck Series garage. And NHRA lets the fans actually come into the pit area. And man, that's beautiful. You buy a ticket, and you can go all over the place. You can go right up to your favorite driver and watch them do their thing. It's really hard to beat for a fan, isn't it?
It is. That's one of the reasons why NHRA is so special, because every ticket really is a pit pass. The families, the kids, the friends are able to walk through the pit area and actually engage with the teams, actually engage with the drivers, and get up close and personal. It's almost like every ticket is VIP access is what it is. And really, I think that's part of why the fans really enjoy it, why they're so loyal, why they love it so much. And drag racing lends to that atmosphere so well, because it really is a hurry up. Everything goes down the track really quickly. Everyone's working hard, and then it stops. And it just stops for a few hours, and the team takes the car apart, puts everything back together. And during that period of time, whether it's an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, it really gives the fans the ability to communicate with the drivers and communicate with the teams and be inside the pit area. So it's like nothing I've ever seen before from a professional sport, and I absolutely love that that's part of the NHRA atmosphere. Any of those
Toyota NASCAR boys or gals been giving you a call maybe to let you come and test a little with them yet?
Oh boy, I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'm not saying I would turn down the opportunity. I think maybe we do some kind of crossover where one of the Toyota drivers comes and sits in the top Fuel Dragster, and maybe I'll take a ride in the Toyota NASCAR car that he's got. So
well, I know a few folks. You never know. Be careful what you wish for there, Justin. I know a few folks might make that happen, man.
I know. Be careful what you wish for is right.
Exactly. You're a big sports fan, not only a race fan, but you are a collegiate athlete. And you and I, a lot of times, are joking around talking about your beloved New York Jets and NFL football. You're just a sports guy. And how lucky do you feel to be able to be at the major league of your sport that you fell in love with?
Yeah, I feel very lucky. I feel very blessed, to be honest with you, and I have a tremendous amount of gratitude. I am a big sports fan, a tremendous New York Jets fan, a Knicks fan, a Mets fan, and it's kind of cool to look at those athletes and watch them at the pinnacle of their profession, and then be able to see what I'm doing and realize, what, I am at the pinnacle of mine. So it really is a pinch me moment at times. I do have to step back, and it's so easy to get caught up in the moment and not appreciate it and enjoy it. But I'm definitely grateful to be in this position, and I do have to take the time to step back and realize how far I've come compared to when I first got in a race car when I was 11 years old. So I do feel very fortunate to be at the pinnacle, to be competing at the highest level there is in a sport that I love, in NHRA drag racing.
You were a fan before you were a contestant. And one of the things that I've watched you do is you do a great job with the fans, and not all drivers do that. Some will almost run and hide from the fans, but I've never seen you turn down an autograph, and you do a great job at making every fan feel special. But I'm going to tell you one person that I feel like does a better job, and I think he's the best one in the entire pit area, and you might agree, and that's Antron Brown. Man, if you want to learn how to deal with the fans and the sponsors and the media, that guy's gold. And what have you learned, being side by side with Antron Brown this last year?
Yeah, I've learned so much. I learned a lot before this year, but then really being teammates with him this year, I've learned a tremendous amount. Really on and off the racetrack. He is the single best representative I think NHRA has ever had for the sport in general, and for Matco Tools and for Toyota and for his sponsors. So he's a guy that I always pick his brain as much as I can. But I think primarily what I've learned is just, to continue to be true to yourself, to continue to perfect your craft, but treat each and every person the same, whether it's your crew chief, whether it's your friend, family, whether it's the fans. They're all equally as important, and they really are. And we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without the fans. So that's something that I'm very appreciative for, are the fans. And I've certainly learned that from Antron and a lot of others.
Well, Justin, we're going to wrap up Rattling the Rollcage this edition. Thanks for joining us. And, brother, I will see you at the 54th Annual Gator Nationals in Florida coming up in March. And fans, keep on rattling that roll cage.
Thanks, Randy.